Does Georgia quarterback Gunnar Stockton have to be a superstar in order for Georgia to either compete for a national championship or go out and win one? That's my question today that I'm sifting through. My quick answer is no, and I'll get to why. The real answer is I don't know because there's a lot of unknown about this Georgia football team. Now, it would be really boring of me to just sit here and say, I don't know, and I don't know about this or that, because I have a pretty good idea about certain things. But my answer is no, but if he does become a star, it will make things much, much easier for Georgia. Maybe that sounds pretty obvious, but the thing is, I've been doing this this would be year 6 this coming season in terms of covering Georgia football, and I have never felt this cloud of unknown over my head about a football team that I'm covering as I do this season. I just don't. There is so much that we don't know about this Georgia football team, and I think there's still a lot we don't know about Gunnar Stockton. Now, there are some really positives you can take away from Gunnar's experience so far, but the thing is he going to thrive and become a star now? Does Georgia really need that? I'm going to say no. And let's talk about it. Ryan Curley from Dawg posts links that you need, BetMGM, newsletter, all that. Those things are in the description of this video down below. So Gunnar, freshman year is 2022. He's QB4 on the depth chart, QB4, right? Stetson, Carson, Brock Vandagriff, and then Gunnar Stockton's QB4. 2023, he's pretty much QB3, right? Carson, and then Brock Vandagriff, and then Gunnar Stockton. Brock leaves at the end of 2023. He leaves before that bowl game, the Orange Bowl, and Gunnar becomes QB2 heading into that Orange Bowl, and he was QB2 for a while after that, right? Up until Carson Beck gets hurt. Excuse me. He played pretty well against what I would call Florida State's C team, JV squad, in the second half of the Orange Bowl that Georgia was demolishing them when there's no pressure and you can just go out there and play football. And then you saw him in garbage time, and then he gets thrusted into the SEC championship. Now, you can look at it a couple of different ways about whether or not you think that there is a star in the making with Gunnar Stockton. You can look at the SEC championship and say, hey, looked like the play calling was kind of limited, which it was, right? They did a lot of option plays. They didn't push the ball more than 20 yards, maybe more than 15 yards downfield, but 3 times, I believe. One was an incomplete pass in the back of the end zone. One was a completion to Lawson Lucky. And I think there was one other incomplete pass, right? But they didn't push the ball even close to downfield against a very, very good secondary in Texas that had guys that just got their name called in the NFL draft, and Andrew Makuba, Jahdae Barron, players like that. You can look at that and say, hey, they didn't trust Gunnar quite yet. But he was gritty. He made plays. He did open up the run game for Georgia, and they beat a really good Texas team for the second time, and there was a trophy that they were given at the end of doing so. And you can look at that and say, that experience is going to make Gunnar Stockton, it's going to make things easier for Gunnar Stockton to become a superstar. That is one way of looking at it. Or you could look at it and say, hey, there's a reason why he wasn't out there over Carson Beck, who struggled for a good bit of the season. There was that train of thought by experts, by pundits. Hey, if Carson Beck was so bad in October and at the end of September and moments in the SEC championship game, why didn't Gunnar Stockton get out there? Well, at the end of the day, Carson Beck is probably the better quarterback. He at least was last year. Now, things can change this season, and Gunnar can be better than him. And you could take in the Sugar Bowl. Georgia loses. Is that his fault? I don't think so. They couldn't stop Notre Dame's run game, largely. They lost a special teams battle, and Georgia lost what many would argue to be the most pivotal point of athletic events and football games, like the last few minutes of the first half and the first few minutes of the second half. Georgia completely got obliterated in that, and most of the scoring barrage from Notre Dame came during that. And Georgia's offense just couldn't get things going. There were some drop passes, right? Those things are not on Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar Stockton having an edge rusher fly by a left tackle and hitting him in the off his blind side. That's not really Gunnar Stockton's fault. There's things that, Nate Frazier fumbling is not, or I believe it was Nate Frazier that fumbled, that's not Gunnar Stockton's fault. So there were a lot of things that happened, and Gunnar made some really nice throws and made throws that you would think are winning types of throws. That dime to Arian Smith, what was not necessarily a dime, but a very good deep ball throw to Dylan Bell that ended up getting dropped. He made some nice throws across the middle of the field. Didn't use his legs as much as I thought they would, but he showed the ability to play the quarterback position at a pretty high level. And I think that there's definitely something positive to be taken from that. Now, going back to the original question, does he have to be a star for this team to compete? I think Georgia's defense will be good. I think it has a chance to be better than last year, where it was like 30th roughly in terms of a total defense. It used to be top 10 the last handful of years before that. Can it get back to a top 10 defense? I think so. Why? They have the talent and they have the coaching. The offense should be better. It's getting a restart. It's getting new receivers. New offensive linemen will be out there. It's got a new running back. And they just get a refresher. Sometimes there's a mental refresher that could be really good in life, could be really good for an athletic program. And I think that's what Georgia's getting. I think Georgia's offense is better in terms of the surrounding cast around the quarterback. And so when I think, can he just be a little bit better than Carson Beck was in 2024? Not throwing 12 interceptions, not throwing 3 in a game multiple times, that kind of thing. Being a bigger run threat. And in turn, you have a better supporting cast. Georgia's defense should be just fine. When I think about a Georgia defense that's going to have 4 and 5 stars all across the board, that's going to have guys that are really ready for their turn, some guys that have been waiting a long time, then I believe that Gunnar doesn't have to be a star. He's just got to play better than Carson did last season. And I've defended Carson in a way, and I still will, I guess. I don't think that everything that happened in 2024 was Carson Beck's fault. I think he was part of the issue, and I think that when he began to press, that became an issue for Georgia. But I don't reflect on the 2024 season for Georgia and think, man, Carson Beck ruined that. I think there were a lot of problems. But if Carson Beck was not one of the problems, like he became at one point, things would have been better for Georgia. So I look at this Georgia team that I certainly think is going to be better on offense in terms of the cast around the quarterback. I don't think he's got to be a star for this offense to be successful, for this offense to put up 40 points per game. Was Stetson a star in 2022? Yes. Was he a star in 2021? No. Now, he had a really great defense and a good supporting cast, but that's kind of my point. J.J. McCarthy wasn't a star for Michigan. Will Howard wasn't a star for Ohio State. They went on to win the national championship because the supporting cast was very, very good on both sides of the ball. I think you get that with this Georgia team, and I think you get a reset year, and you don't have to go to Texas and Alabama and the Ole Miss in these really harsh environments and end up, they get to come to you. You still got to go to Auburn. That's still going to be tough. You still got to deal with the Jacksonville game. You still got to go to, where else are they going? Tennessee, right? Tough places to play, but things should be easier this time around. So my answer, after really thinking about it, is the same as my quick response, which is I don't think he has to be a superstar for Georgia to compete and potentially win the national championship this coming year. That's my take. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you for watching.